Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought you to have done, and not to leave the other undone. Ye blind guides, which strain at an gnat, and swallow a camel. Woe unto you, O scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you make clean the outside of the cup and of the platter, but within they are full of extortion and excess.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. Everything all right here? Sounds a little weird. Okay. That's just on my end, I think. All right. We're continuing our study in Proverbs chapter 28, and we are at verse 5 today. Oh, wait a second. That screen shall not be my background. I have the live stream. I'm on the other side, and when you see that, that's bad news. Let's just read the whole chapter, including the first 4 verses. The wicked flee when no man pursueth. All right. I don't know why it sounds slightly distorted to me. The wicked flee when no man pursueth, but the righteous are bold as a lion. For the transgression of a land, many are the princes thereof. But by a man of understanding and knowledge, the state thereof shall be prolonged. We didn't look at that. A poor man that oppresseth the poor is like a sweeping rain that leaveth no food. They that forsake the law praise the wicked, but such as keep the law contend with them. Evil men understand not judgment, but they that seek the Lord understand all things. Better is the poor that walketh in his uprightness, than he that is perverse in his ways, though he be rich. Whoso keepeth the law is a wise son, but he that is a companion of riotous men shameth his father. He that by usury and unjust gain increaseth his substance, he shall gather it for him that will pity the poor. He that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be abomination. Whoso causeth the righteous to go astray in an evil way, he shall fall himself into his own pit, but the upright shall have good things in possession. The rich man is wise in his own conceit, but the poor that hath understanding searcheth him out. When righteous men do rejoice, there is great glory. But when the wicked rise, a man is hidden. I'm guessing that word man is something like different than what I think, like ish. He that covereth his sins shall not prosper, but whoso confesseth and forsaketh them shall have mercy. Happy is the man that feareth always, but he that hardeneth his heart shall fall into mischief. As a roaring lion and a raging bear, so is a wicked ruler over the poor people. The prince that wanteth understanding is also a great oppressor, and he that hateth covetousness shall prolong his days. A man that doeth violence to the blood of any person shall flee to the pit. Let no man stay him. Whoso walketh uprightly shall be saved, but he that is perverse in his ways shall fall at once. He that tilleth his land shall have plenty of bread, but he that followeth after vain persons shall have poverty enough. A faithful man shall abound with blessings, but he that maketh haste to be rich shall not be innocent. To have respect of persons is not good. For a piece of bread that man will transgress. I want to discuss it. He that hasteth to be rich hath an evil eye, and considereth not that poverty shall come upon him. He that rebuketh a man afterwards shall find more favor than he that flattereth with the tongue. Whoso robbeth his father or his mother, and saith, It is no transgression, the same as the companion of a destroyer. He that is of a proud heart stirreth up strife, but he that putteth his trust in the Lord shall be made fat. He that trusteth in his own heart is a fool, but whoso walketh wisely, he shall be delivered. Trust your heart. Such inanity. He that giveth unto the poor shall not lack, but he that hideth his eyes shall... Let me do that again. He that giveth unto the poor shall not lack, but he that hideth his eyes shall have many a curse. When the wicked rise, men hide themselves, but when they perish, the righteous increase. You know, people, yeah, a lot of reasons that's true. You know, I was just thinking about those first few verses. The state thereof shall be prolonged. I'm assuming that means like standing, something like that. I'm going to see if it's worth talking about just real quick. Okay, I'm on the right chapter. Okay, state. Okay. It's actually less meaningful than that. So that's fine. We don't need to go back there. Okay, let's look at the next proverb we're on. Evil men understand not judgment, but they that seek the Lord understand all things. Now, that doesn't mean, as soon as you start seeking the Lord, you're going to know everything. Of course not. But, as it says in the New Testament, the Spirit of the Lord searcheth all things, yea, the deep things of God. I'm going to go there because a lot of times people say, like, it's all mystery. Who can know? Who can know? Who can know everything? Well, it's not a question of, do I know everything, but can I know everything? That's the question. Do I have access to everything? If I need it, let's say. And to that, I would say yes. Now, outside of the Spirit, how could you say yeah? You can't. Because man can't know. We don't know. The way I usually look this up, I'm using my Bible search thing. I'll just look up deep things. Because I know there's only 4 verses in the whole Bible that have the word deep in things in it in the King James. I'll show them to you because you might be curious. I mean, that's not like a fact I pull out of a hat. I just searched it up. And why is it not showing? Oh, it's because that search window is dominating everything. That's how I searched. There we go. And, yea, the deep thing, we got Deuteronomy 33, things of heaven, da-da-da. But deep things, that's from Job. And revealeth deep and secret things is separated in Daniel there. But here in 1 Corinthians 2, verse 10, it's a real interesting thing because God is... Well, I'm the wrong chapter. 2:10, there we go. I was like, why is the words aren't matching up? All right, here we go. It has to do with that hidden wisdom, right? Let's see where I want to begin. Verse 5, that your faith should not stand in the wisdom of men. We want to find out wisdom, and not the wisdom of this world, nor the wisdom of men. And you got to differentiate the two, because there is an element of that. And there's some wisdom that transcends both men and God, that it's wise no matter what, right? But anyways. Verse 4, my speech and my preaching was not with enticing words of man's wisdom, but in demonstration of the Spirit and power, that your faith should not stand in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God. Howbeit we speak wisdom among them that are perfect, yet not the wisdom of this world, nor of the princes of this world that come to naught. But we speak the wisdom of God in a mystery, even the hidden wisdom which God ordained before the world unto our glory, which none of the princes of this world knew, for had they known it, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. But as it is written, eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. But God hath revealed them unto us by his Spirit. For the Spirit searcheth all things, yea, the deep things of God. For what man knoweth the things of a man, save the spirit of man which is in him? Even so, the things of God knoweth no man, but the Spirit of God. That's what God was on to say. Yeah, well, let me read the rest. Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit which is of God, that we might know the things that are freely given to us of God. Which things also we speak, not in the words which man's wisdom teacheth, but which the Holy Ghost teacheth, comparing spiritual things with spiritual. But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him. Neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. But he that is spiritual judgeth all things, yea, yet he himself is judged of no man. For who hath known the mind of the Lord, that he may instruct him? But we have the mind of Christ. Exactly. And that's the audacity of faith. And that's why, on some level, people will accuse you of arrogance and stuff. Because when you're really in contact with God, you put yourself in a position, because I judge all things. When he says that, Jesus said, judge not. What are you talking about, Paul? Judge not. But I also played that scripture where Jesus himself said, you've neglected the weightier of matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. God has already spoken his judgment. That's why in Romans chapter 2, it says, when it goes through, a lot of people who want to change the law. Like I've said for a long time, we don't take things off the books. When we go back to Proverbs here, you look at what it says. They that forsake the law praise the wicked. And that's what happens when we forsake right and wrong. And not that I'm saying like the law as it was right towards people, just like Jesus. He said, neither do I condemn thee, go and sin no more. And I say the same thing. I will not condemn them, but I will not change the law. I will say what is right and what is wrong, the judgment of God. In Romans chapter 2, it says, but we know that the judgment of God is sure concerning these things. Why does he say that? I want to go to Romans 2 real quick, because this is all connected. And this is ultimately the true wisdom is the wisdom of Christ. Like I said, the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy, testimony. Sometimes I talk too fast. I don't have time for words. But a lot of times people will say, look at Romans, they'll say Romans 1 and they'll say, look at how Paul reaffirms a lot of things that are sinful. People a lot of times on the, conservative side of things will focus on like the man on man, woman on woman aspect of this litany. But he mentions everything. Envy, murder, debate, deceit. Jesus told us that, even to lust after a woman in your heart, you got to consider that in the eyes of God, that's adultery. And every idle word men will give account thereof in the day of judgment. That's why Paul goes on to say, you're inexcusable for judging someone else. Oh, man. But what he says in Corinthians is we haven't received the wisdom of man. We're not judging as men. We are just saying, as he says, but we are sure that the judgment of God is according to truth against them which commit such things. And his point is, if you do the same things, you're not going to escape the judgment of God. That's why we need Jesus. That is how we escape the judgment of God. And that's ultimately how it says, you judge all things, yet are judged of no man, because you are the conduit of God's word, which is the judgment against the world. And yes, but I do not personally judge other people, especially in matters of conscience, or condemn. But there is condemnation, and the condemnation of God is what it is. He has spoken, as far as I'm concerned, and there's no, I can't say anything against it. I can only repeat God's word in that regard. And people want to change it and all that, and you're being foolish. If you want to, just be merciful. That's enough. You don't have to, mercy towards sinners is good. God, that is what he wants us to be. Do not condemn. Do not be harsh. I mean, some crimes, it becomes a matter of not an individual thing. I'm talking about individual things you have jurisdiction over. Like a judge is supposed to judge according to the law and mete out the punishments as according to the law. That's why we don't put small things as punishable. That's why it's a travesty that protesters got punished for a riot provoked by the police in Washington, 4 years ago. Or whatever that was. It wasn't quite 4. It was 3 years ago, I guess, huh? Coming up on 4. I forgot that was 21. Police, whatever. The whole thing was a setup, of course. But, evil men don't understand judgment. And they don't follow it. They don't understand, like, how even comes back around and bites them. That's why it says this stuff about, like later on in this chapter, about the effects of the wicked. And just like when you have wickedness running rampant in the land, the whole country suffers. Everybody suffers. I'm going to suffer for the wickedness of the people, even though I have nothing to do with it. Except that maybe I have something to do with it in that I haven't been preaching hard enough. I didn't push myself forward enough. Whatever. Maybe, if I could have done more, I suppose it's that. Done more by, I don't know what. What am I going to do? We're all carried along by forces that are beyond our control. We fight the principalities and powers. And the best way to do that, I think, is to build one another up. Because it takes literally millions of people to move the world, And even more, millions is good enough. Not that I'm looking for millions of people to listen to me. I'm just saying people who are filled with the Spirit. They're all, because like I always believe that it's not like we're not looking for superstars. We just need a lot of candlesticks, Candlesticks, not stars. End times is not going to be about the stars. It's going to be about the sticks. Be a conduit of oil, not a light giver. That's Satan. That's what all the pastors are following after. They're going the way of the devil. Many of them are. They are following the ways of Satan. They're going for that superstar. They want to be the angel of the church, the star. Okay. You be angels. I see, worshiping of angels and all that. If we seek the Lord, we have access to understand everything. He can explain. He can make us to understand everything. I grow in understanding every year. Some people might argue, and but the truth is also my perception of my own ignorance increases also. Like I said, it's as a lot of people with science, when I was young, our understanding of the world, it seemed like I tell my kids, when I was growing up in the 80s, we lived in the future. Like we lived in the future compared to like recent time. Like, that's how it felt. Rocket roller skates were like the next thing, and they're almost, it's not quite rocket roller skates, but they have toys that would have wowed us. When you have these little boards on balls, we would have lost our minds over something like that. These electronic things that have come out, because it happens so slowly, you don't feel it much. But, we felt that way. At least I did. I felt like, there was space stuff going on. They were going up into space all the time and missions and all that. And why was I saying that? But, I forgot my point. I'm going to have a little coffee. Sometimes when I go roundabout point to make a point, that's not a good idea because there's always so many ways to digress when you go off the track. It's not off the track. It's just sidetrack. There's lots of tracks. And all of them, who can say which ones are not worthy of following? But anyways, it's worth keeping in mind. Evil men do not get it. You know what I mean? And judgment is essential. Anyone tells you, make sure you say, hey, people say, they'll say, Jesus said, judge not. And I'm like, well, in John chapter 7, verse 25, that's a verse I always remember. I believe it's 7:25. I'm not going to check it, but you can always, he says, judge not after the outward appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Jesus says to judge He just says to judge right. He says, judge not that ye be not judged. For with what judgment you judge, you shall be judged. It's not a commandment to never exercise judgment. Jesus would not think you would be so absurd. That's why I say there's a lot of people who read the Bible like literally disrespectful of the author. They read Jesus, and in the way that they pig-headedly read him in this sort of wooden, I don't want to think, that mentality towards it is actually disrespectful of the Lord, and is not, it's like this, what's he talking about? I want my fish sandwich. That attitude of like, hey, let's see another miracle. It's like, he's the Son of God. He's talking. You should listen. He has more to say than just something. I just want, tell me what to do, and so I can do it and go back to my life. I just want to clear up my religion. Better is the poor that walketh in his uprightness than he that is perverse in his ways, though he be rich. That's not obvious to people, because a lot of times poverty breeds resentment on people, and they become angry and resentful towards everybody, and they blame other people for their poverty. And it's like I said, I talk about my poverty, but it's my choice. It's like I don't have any. I know that everything where I am, and sometimes it's hard to. I tell you what, it's not just easy. It's just what it is I know. Sometimes it's hard being in the position I've been in for the past 20 years. Not in so much 20 years. Even 20, man. When I was young, even though I was financially better off when I was younger, actually, which is weird. Maybe not right now. That's not true, but whatever. I was, I would say. Especially considering, even though I made less money, it was just worth more back then, But I thought I was doing all right. Back then when I think about what I thought was my nut, what I needed every month to get by, I'm like, I remember thinking like, if I had $3,000 every month, I'd have extra money for everything. That's how I felt back then. I'd have money for everything and then extra. And that was back when I would go to fast food just randomly. I would just spend money on that. Obviously I had a lot fewer kids. But it's hard sometimes living life under pressure, and being poor. And at times I've regretted my poverty, but not the choices that led to it. And it's never occurred to me to blame other people. Now, sometimes I've had bad things happen to me that were other people's fault that hurt really bad because I was poor. That definitely, while it didn't make me, I didn't blame them for my poverty, though, I had there was no love. I never, like I said, most of the time this is faceless stuff, banks grinding you up, and like whatever. Not really banks. I don't think of anything with bank ever. I think more like, let me think. I don't want to say specific stuff. I don't want to talk about meaning people who did me wrong. To me, that's like that's not glorying in my infirmities. That's something else, right? That's airing my grievances. And I don't really, like I said, those things happen, but I don't get bitter over them. As far as I don't blame my poverty for them or my state. It's like those are just things that happen. It's like, and they hurt, and you get over them. God is still with me. He didn't forsake me. Though men may stab at me and take everything from me, they can never take him from me and all that he's given me. He will, just like Job, it's all can be restored. And in the end of Job, it didn't even talk as though, there's like a subtle resurrection. Like I said, like a lot of things in the Old Testament, it's an implication. There's an implication of the resurrection at the end of Job. We should do Job sometime. We will. Maybe not right after Proverbs, because we'll be in wisdom literature here for a long time. I'm not sure what we're doing next. Probably a minor prophet, huh? Whoso keepeth the law is a wise son. Wait. The poor that walk in the... Well, anyways, but like I said, I was... But let me finish the thought. Okay, so I'm not resentful about my poverty. That's good. I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but but what is more concerning to me is that I would walk in my uprightness. In fact, when I don't walk in uprightness, to me that is the greatest source of, let's not call it anxiety. Well, I'll call it anxiety if you want. I'm not sure if that's the properly right word. It's like, well, sometimes I guess, I feel somewhat, whenever I see flaws in myself that I can't shake, it's troubling. And I want to be a bit troubled about that. Not for my salvation, just because, I don't know, because I'm human. Like Jesus, it's like he was a bit worked up about going to the cross in Gethsemane. It's okay. You can feel your feelings. That's nice to know. It's nice to know. Being perverse in your ways and rich, you're not as good as me. Sorry. If I can walk in my uprightness. If I'm perverse, though, I'm no better than the rich man. Except I'm poor and there's some excuse for my perversity. Nah. There's no excuse for perversity. And often, a lot of poor people are not perverse. There's a lot of good people, obviously. But there is the cliche, right, of the, and sometimes that cliche is true. Sometimes people are poor, and it's because they've made a lot of bad choices in life. It's not that they got poor for good choices, like someone taking a vow of poverty and going to the priesthood or whatever. Not that that's necessarily something I recommend, but the mentality. Someone's saying like, "Oh, I'm going to live in poverty and just serve. I'm not going to get married. I'm just going to learn scripture all day and pray and offer incense." And that's my whole life now. It's like that's that always appealed to me. except I imagined myself in a monastery, and then my wife's she's making something for me to eat upstairs or downstairs or whatever. So no, that wouldn't quite work out for me, no. But I do like that's why I immediately go to that. A poor person, what can I think of examples historically? But there's lots of poor people. As far as, in America, we all live pretty well. But a lot of us think of ourselves as poor because why? Because we're living month to month. You don't have a lot of money in savings. How can you feel rich? And yeah, I get it. I definitely understand because I live from month to month too. I never have more than 4 digits in my bank account, except occasionally around tax time, right? And usually not, actually. When did that ever happen, Paul? Oh, yeah, one time I didn't file my taxes, and I didn't realize I had big refunds, so I filed like 2 or 3 at a time, and so I ended up with some money. Better is the poor that walketh in uprightness, and he that is perverse in his ways, though he be rich. And also, walking in uprightness, being right with God. That's why you walk uprightly, I hope. Or even if you don't, someone who doesn't know God, because again, it does not necessarily mean, because like it says of Cornelius, those that fear God and do righteousness, that's acceptable with God. That's a person who's close to encountering Christ, So, I always try to be, I don't want to be adversarial towards that type of person. I want to gently lead them to Jesus. That's another thing you got to be, when you're preaching to people. I see a lot of angry Christians out there. Like, it's like so much more interested in owning the atheists than in converting them. It's kind of you can do both. It is good to beat someone in an argument, but if you can't, you need to go back and learn better instead of going and just being an insulting and unpleasant person online. Just a little hint. Whatever. We have a lot of people who are, what's interesting? It's kind of, as people abandon Christ, it's like, all the cliches about bad religion come out into society, and you see it's sort of like, almost like, I don't know, it's just a spirit in man that's just perverse and wants to use God for evil. And they don't necessarily even call it God, but it's like the commandment that cannot be disobeyed. Like you must celebrate pride. You must follow. You must tear down the laws. You must call evil good. Say it. Evil is good. They want you to say it. Black is white. Up is down. perversity. Whoso keepeth the law is a wise son. Why are they? Because you know what? Because God sees all. And I'd rather have, my riches is the Lord. I don't think about treasure. My treasure in heaven is him himself. That's why I look at it. It's like, my relationship with him is a treasure that no man can touch. You know? No man can touch it. You can't slander me to him. He knows me. He knows me. And I told him, you know, and I've confessed all. It's like, and what will men say against me? Go ahead, say it all. There's nothing. There's nothing left. I was like, you know. I mean, it's all terribly true. It's not like it's like invincible. I'm just unassailable in the sense of I'm not worried about it. I'm not fearful about it because I don't fear men. I've already been through it. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm fearless of men. I do fear men, but only certain men. And what I mean, like, I would be more fearful of what my wife thought, right? But I've already reconciled with her also. You know, like there are people in my family who I care what they think about. There are people in the church who I care about their opinion. You know, it's like I said, I don't just want to be heedless of all. We need to be willing to be rebuked. That's also an important thing. You know, it's not just, you know, that can get us in that wrong attitude online where or even in life, you know, where we become ourselves a problem. Though we think we're right, we have Jesus on our side. It's like, what are we doing? Whoso keepeth the law is a wise son. You know, for us, it's the law of Christ. And it's all, you know, again, we can't, the law, as far as a Christian is concerned, is passed away, the old law. Now, that doesn't mean righteousness is gone. Because you can understand, why is the law passed away? Because of the righteousness that exceeds the law. Well, what do you mean, Paul? Because not committing adultery is not enough. You're not supposed to even lust. So that's the stand. That's why it says you can't. You think you're going to keep all these commandments and all. You're not going to do it. Well, you may keep those commandments, but ain't enough. The commandments aren't enough, and in fact, some of them are pointless. And since I'm a Gentile, I'm not required to become a Jew. That's another thing the New Testament taught. So, you know, the keeping of the law becomes a matter of the law of Christ, which is the righteousness which the Holy Ghost teacheth. You know, and that exceeds the law. The law is an awesome schoolmaster. You can read the law, and from it, you will understand right and wrong. Now, you wouldn't want to follow the law like stone people for certain sins because that's passed away. You wouldn't want to institute that law. Jesus himself, in dismissing the woman who was caught committing adultery, whatever you want to say about the case, he said, I'm not going to condemn you, go and sin no more, which presupposed that she had committed the sin, or at least was worthy of some, you know, it didn't say you weren't worthy of this or you were innocent. No, it's just go and sin no more. So that right there is against the law. Not necessarily against, but it is mercy over condemnation. And it's good. You know, and then you say, but Paul, weren't you talking about how people have to enforce the law? Well, we should have laws on the books that are good and reasonable. And like stoning people for adultery, we don't consider that reasonable. Though honestly, you know, it's what that sin is worthy of. If I would go out and commit adultery on my wife, I would deserve to be stoned. You know, that's what I would deserve. And that's what you get. That's part of what the law teaches. It understands the severity of the sin. But you don't necessarily have to do the fullness of it. It says, one of the things was if a man be punished, you were not to give him more than 40 stripes because there's a limit on how much you should do to a person, meaning if it's a punishment worthy of stripes. Some things are considered worthy of death. We can't have murderers running around rampant. You know, we just can't do it. Some things probably, you know, and maybe we don't trust our system enough to deliver justice, so we just put them away for life in the off chance we find out maybe they're innocent, and then at least you can give them the rest of their life. I'd rather be in jail for life waiting on the hope of getting out than be executed, and then later on they go, whoops, you know. So that's why, you know, like I said, I used to be, when I was young, I was like pro-death penalty, and I'm definitely pro-death penalty. I'm just not pro our judicial system. And you see, I've been preaching that for years. And we see now how bad it's getting, as far as we see people who are basically innocent being prosecuted for political crimes, for having opinions and for marching on the Capitol. There's pictures from the 60s of like the Black Panthers, or maybe it wasn't the Black Panthers, it was black dudes with automatic, maybe not automatic weapons, with long rifles in the Capitol building. But they weren't pointing them at people, and nobody got killed. It was just sort of like an armed takeover of the Capitol building. That doesn't change much as far. How you overthrow the government? You overthrow the government? You put together a convention of states. That's what you do. And you elect new people. We don't need to go with that gun stuff. It's like the guns are there because if the totalitarianism totally shuts down everyone's speech, people are going to start doing that. I'm more of a First Amendment. I believe in religion, and speech is the most powerful weapon and should be the only one we use. But the cool thing is, since we all own guns, that should keep things nice and peaceful. The best, I think that is part of it. I can't imagine it's our government, and the idea that it will send the military against violence. And who knows how far it can go. They definitely want to go far. But like I said, without the devil, I don't think they got a chance. I don't believe in them. I just don't think these people can do what they want to do. They're going to create chaos, but they're not going to accomplish what they want. We're going to suffer because of it, okay? So keeping the law in that way. Again, not the Old Testament law as it was written, but as understood by the Spirit of God through the New Testament. We're not making sacrifices. When I said the law has passed away, maybe that offends some people, but I'm telling you, that's the way Paul described it, because of the glory that exceeds. And it doesn't mean that, like I said, it doesn't mean it isn't true. It just means it's not in effect. We don't live under it. So it's passed away. Some people still want to revive the law and live under it. It's almost blasphemy against Jesus to do that, really, because he fulfilled it. It's denying what he said. He said not one jot or tittle of the law would pass until all be fulfilled. If Jesus has not fulfilled all, then how can, in the book of Acts, they say that the Gentiles only have to fulfill a few things and not be circumcised? Circumcision would be forever. It's like, but some people, they just want to be under the old law. But that, the law passing away doesn't change the fact that if you're a companion of riotous men, you are ashamed of your father. Bad company corrupts good manners, as the New Testament says from the King James. Your behavior is going to be influenced by the company you keep. And it doesn't need to say that his son is riotous. If he's keeping company with riotous men, it's a foregone conclusion. Who your friends are says a lot about who you are. And I wasn't really watching it, but I saw the beginning of something. There were some interesting recommendations coming up because I watch a lot of psychological stuff, and I like to understand how the human mind works and science. And if I look at the things, what do they recommend to me? It's like, I like things like debates, automobile repair, podcasts, electricity. The other one was live, home improvement, gardening, machines, science, and those are my categories. And then new to you and watched. But something came up about likelihood of divorce. Like, if your friends are divorcing, you're likely to be divorced. If your friends are unhappy, you're likely to be unhappy. Makes sense. They confirm this with science, but it's been in the Bible for generations, and I've known this my whole life. That's why my life has, like I said, I'm not gonna say I'm the world's happiest person. I'm deeply satisfied, but also deeply dissatisfied, because I'm not enough. I feel like I'm not a big enough man for the gifts I got. That's my honest to God assessment of my own life. I've never been as big as the gifts. I've never been able to do all that I thought I could. That's how I always feel. And so, but I feel like that's good though. That's like an engine of propulsion that like pushes me. So I don't know that I necessarily don't want that in my life. I never pray for that going, oh Lord, let me forget about your works. It's like, I just feel like I want to do them before the end. I mean, I could do them later. I don't mind, continuing the work into the infinite future or whatever. because there's a lot of things to do. I always wanted to do the whole Bible. I don't expect to do that in my lifetime unless we get some peace here. I can go back to just musing about the old scriptures and not having to talk about so much what's going on right now. At least not in my music. Yeah, so, and again, I'm always glad of the company my children keep, because they are, and in fact, other people like to have my children as their companion. They want their kids to hang around with my kids, because those kids are a good influence on our kids. The adults look at them and like, why don't you hang out with him, And I know that's a bit of a boast, whatever, but I'll make it. That's what I want. I'd rather glory in my infirmities, though, right? So let's just move on. He that by usury and unjust gain increaseth his substance, he shall gather it for him that will pity the poor. Yeah. So it's like one of those reversal things where it's not always the case, but in the Lord's, it is in the cosmic sense. In God's justice, it is just so. It is just so. But in life, it's more of a statement about how things ought to be. And a lot of the statements in the Proverbs are like that. Like it is like a king's decree, because this is the wisdom of Hezekiah or of Solomon that Hezekiah's men wrote down. Meaning, it was actually in the days of Hezekiah, the wisdom recorded. This was the wisdom in Hezekiah's court. Remember, we that was already mentioned in the context. So he that turneth away his ear from hearing the unjust gain increase. So, yeah, when you get rich off of capitalism, and you want usury, what else could it be? Letting someone use your money, and getting a incremental increase, and they gather it for him that will pity the poor. And what it's saying is it's in the parable of the bigger barns, where the guy is like, I have finally built my big barns, and I can put away all my put all my stuff, and I'll have plenty for many days. And then that night a voice comes to him, thou fool, tonight your soul is required of you. And what you built, who will it be left to? Somebody else. If God doesn't like what you're doing with your money, he might just decide to give it to somebody else who will know what to do with it. That's why I say I don't know what to do with it, so don't give me your money. Though I kind of have an idea. One of the things I think I mentioned I wanted to do is to support the work of Dr. Robert Epstein. Not Epstein, Stein. And his work in monitoring the big tech companies in the way they are influencing people illegally and nudging elections and stuff like that. The way they are trying to rig things. He's monitoring their activity, right? What? Is something wrong? Sound check? I don't know. It seems all right on this end. Anyways. Not that all... One of the things I think free markets are slandered is being capitalism. Being free and being able to trade and use your money for things is fine. Interest, in the Bible, it's very much against it. And one of the things, though, you got to say is, one of the things they talk about is, in the Middle Ages, the rise of banking and the Jew banking, the Jews in banking. I'm sorry, when I say Jew banking, that sounds like really bad. Thank you. Thank you for that update, Katie. She have the little wrench there because she's my mod. All right. But when the fact that Christians couldn't charge interest on one another meant that nobody would lend money. Because why would you lend money if you can't make any money off of it? Well, you would lend it to your families and friends. I've lent money to friends and family, and whatever. I'm not going to say more about it. But one would do that, right? One might lend to his son or his daughter or to his father or his mother, but at no interest, right? I certainly would never charge interest to my children. I would never charge interest to anybody because I'm not in the business of giving loans. Now, if you want to be in business giving loans, especially to other businesses, who would loan money to a business? Well, maybe you could get some from people, and there's other ways you could collect money to raise money for a business. But being able to borrow money is one of the fastest ways. And if you have a good idea, being able to borrow money and quickly get into business is important for a rapid economic growth. But one of the things that Proverbs is saying here that, rapid economic growth is not like the be-all, end-all of life. And we act sometimes like it is. And so we're not going to have rapid economic growth anyways, because one, the world is killing off many, many, many people. But not many, many, many. But it's going to get worse if they don't start doing something to turn it around. World War III is not going well in that it just keeps spreading. We start off with Russia, now we're here, we're there. There's a war. When the war is all at war, when the world is at war, it's a world war and it's on its way. It's budding. We can nip it in the bud, as they say, right? You can nip it off in the bud, and we have no world war. We can say, and then we will say, oh, it wasn't a world war, but I think it is if we don't stop it. Right? Every war is a world war if you don't stop it, I suppose. No, but some are contained. These wars Russia did a good job of containing the Ukraine war. I'll say that, and maybe we did a good job of helping them contain it, whatever. It's a dangerous game we play. And we got very stupid men playing it. Like I said, I don't mind that word stupid. It's a good one. It's because it indicates one in a stupor. Maybe a slap about the face would do them some good. I would love that. That would be good. Oh, the perverse man in me is speaking again. Shut up, Paul. All right. Yeah, so, so actually, what's interesting is that, when people make a lot of money, if they got any kind of conscience, often they do turn to philanthropy. But sometimes that philanthropy is a racket, like with what Gates does. That's a racket. He's still getting rich off of philanthropy and also pushing people to do things they don't want to do, pushing people to do things against their will. That's oppression. There's the word press in there, push. When you make people do things they don't want to do, that's called oppression. He that turneth away his ear, or you prevent them from doing things they want to do, it would be another way to say it. They both apply as being oppressed. You can't do what you want to do, and they make you do things you don't want to do. Any combination of those, one or the other or both. That's what oppression looks like. It means to press down on people. All right, he that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be abomination. Yeah, if you're not going to listen to what God says to do right, why would he hear he's not, especially when you're being told, hey, this is right, this is wrong. And a lot of it is not, people say, oh, Ten Commandments, well, they think, the first 5 are garbage. Yeah, I get it. They don't believe in God. But then the rest of it's like, don't kill, that's it, your commandments. It's so obvious. Is it? Apparently not to everybody, because we get murders of fathers and murders of mothers. We get murders of all kinds. So people do turn away their ear from hearing the law. And when you do, again, the law has passed away. That doesn't mean you shouldn't hear it. That doesn't mean you shouldn't know about it. Not at all. It just means you don't have to live by it. You don't have to live by it in the sense of you got to let the Holy Spirit tell you which parts of it are still working. You don't go out and make sacrifices. You should know that because of what Jesus did. There's no need for that animal sacrifice stuff. You don't have to get circumcised. The New Testament explicitly says so. You don't have to honor the Sabbath day the same way they did in the Old Testament. You do have to keep the Sabbath, but there is another way to do it. You can honor the Lord every single day, and that will do for your Sabbath day. Get your body your rest when it needs to, but if you are mindful of the Lord at all times, one man honoreth one day above another, another man honoreth every day alike. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. That's what I'm talking about, not judging others for conscience. You want to go to church on Sunday or on Saturday or on Monday, you're not going to hear a crossword from me as far as getting the fellowship you need. And so we as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another, right? If that's what you're getting, and unfortunately, a lot of times churches are just something else. Yeah, and here, it's turning away your ear. So if you want to come to God, that's why the Lord, what is it the Lord does not despise? A broken and a contrite heart. One who is coming acknowledging his sin. You have to hear the law. Here, and if not the law of the Old Testament, the law of Christ, right and wrong, the condemnation, you shall not commit adultery. Whoever looks on a woman to lust after her has committed adultery already in his heart. You don't want to hear that? You don't want to believe that? Why you're going to come to God and say, "Hear me, O Lord"? He's saying, "No, hear me, and then I'll think about listening to you." God doesn't owe you anything. He already let you live. And that was not, what have you made, Lord? Nay, but oh man, who art thou that repliest against God? It's actually a legit argument. People just don't understand it. I really think they don't. They think it's like saying it's just a dismissal. No. What it's saying is, God made you. And you're questioning your own existence. It could be like if he made, you say, well, why if I should be taller or handsomer? That's not you. You're that thing. So get used to it, accept it, and repent. Don't blame God for your miserable state. He made me like this. He made you. You are like that. He made you so he could redeem you, potentially. I mean, I don't know the answer to that question. You may. Though as wretched as we are. That's the thing. You got to recognize your own wretchedness. If you don't, God isn't interested. I mean, maybe, and you just don't know it because when they would recognize that, to me, that sign of faith is an indication of God's election. So, I always think in terms of God's election. Not always, but I try to think in that terms. But from the human perspective, it's very much a question of the will of what do you want? I don't know. Okay. I thought we went too far ahead. Whoso causeth the righteous to go astray in an evil way? I don't think that means to go to sin, but I think it means to fall into some sort of trap or to stumble into some evil. Let's look at the NIV just for. I don't think that like I said, I don't think if we were looking at the Hebrew words, it would give us much of a insight on that because it's not. I don't think it's the words. It's the sense. Okay, I'm going to bring you over. Okay, those who first... Okay, whosoever, verse 10, yeah. Whosoever leads the upright along an evil path. I like that, yeah. Like someone upright and they're taking them on a path that leads to something evil. Usually that means calamity, like an ambush or some sort of trap or some, to do evil to them is the implication. Not to turn them to evil. The idea is the upright are the upright. That's the idea. The upright don't turn because they're upright. The perverse turn. They turn to evil all the time. The upright go straight ahead. And though that's an idealized version of us, we can be turned, but we are trying not to be turned. And certainly, I said, by being faithful in that which is least, we prove our faithfulness to that which is greatest, the Lord. So, that's why I endeavor to manifest faithfulness to all the things God teaches. Not because I think it's essential for my salvation, but because I believe that it's really the way we're going to have to exist forever and ever. And so I better get used to it now. Because I'm not, because there are some aspects which I definitely could understand are tied to my body. I mean, when I quit smoking, I knew that chemical substance had a hold on my body. It was a physical thing. Same thing with a lot of other addictions. When you come off them, there's a physical feeling. And if you didn't, and you feel this physical draw to have them, and sometimes the aches and the pains of life, both physical and mental, drive us to self-medicate with things like drugs and alcohol. And your body won't have any of that anymore. So that's all going to be gone away. So I'm glad of those problems are often said, hey, it's a mocker. Hey, it's like those things, but all things. It's not for kings to drink wine. We haven't gotten that proverb yet, I think. But whoever leads the upright along an evil path will fall into their own trap. Yeah, that's what I thought it was saying. And it's fine there in the King James. It's not a bad translation. It's just that it's an archaic translation, and so my modern mind buckles a little trying to understand it sometimes. It is challenging. I remember I was talking to my daughter about the King James, and she was like, I understand it's hard. The reading is not hard. Like the reading level is like a 5th grade reading level. The vocabulary, other than a few archaic words, is not that hard. Once you understand, ye and thee, it's some of the way the sentences are structured. Sometimes it's not quite the way we talk. I like it. But the upright shall have good things in possession. As I was reading that when we were going through all the scriptures, it was coming in my mind as all things work together for them that love God, for them that are called according to his purposes, right? Everything's going to work for good. There's nothing that can separate us from God's love. That's what I was talking about from the beginning. That they cannot touch you. They cannot touch you. You will have good things in possession, even if they do cause you to go astray in an evil way, lead you down a path to destruction. Even if they, because like I said, Jesus escaped from their hand many times, but ultimately, God gave him into their hand, and they did with him as they pleased. And don't think that you are better than him. And I'll tell you what, many Christians do think so. They think God doesn't want his bride to be all beat up and sullied. That is one of the most inane arguments I've ever heard. And the people who make it, well, God have mercy on. I don't know. I tell God, will you have mercy on such that corrupt your ways? From the pulpit, and the word of God. The rich man is wise in his own conceit, but the poor that hath understanding searcheth him out. I like that verse. That's why I say all these like billionaires that think they're going to control the world. Dude, you're not going to control it. We're going to find you out. I said all the censors and all that. We're going to find you out, buddies. You're not going to be in government in the future. We're going to get you out of your holes, and you're going to be gone. I'm dedicated to that purpose. I am. Like I said, I'm going to support the work here and there. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. And if like I said, not that I have any money. That's part of the problem. But I might do a little bit. Every little bit helps. I don't know. I do want to. Because they need to be searched out. You know what I mean? They think they can get away with things. When people get rich, it causes them to think things about them, think they're better than other people. And a lot of times, like it says, they get rich by cheating and stuff. Like Bill Gates got rich by stealing an operating system, basically, by copying Apple. He knows what he did. And all that stuff. Maybe this will get censored for blasphemy, right? Blasphemy against our dear Lord, Bill Gates. Right? They get rich, and then they think they're smarter than everybody. They think they can, the World Health Organization, they're going to tell us all what to do. And who's the biggest donor to that? Well, I'll tell you, it's not as an individual perhaps, but nobody's got more money in that than Bill Gates. When they want to get into your vein, we're going to search out, we're going to find out what you guys are up to. You think you can get away with things like hanging out with sex traffickers that specialize in underage girls. You're going to hang out around with people like that, and people aren't going to search it out? People already know, or they believe it. And how do you think it's going to go for you in all your plans for us? We will search you out. You think they're wise in their own conceit, in their own eyes. That's what conceit, wise in their own eyes. Oh, look I've gathered all. I almost played, I was going to play a different song, like about how they gathered the eggs. Ooh, I found the eggs and I took them. I'm so smart. When righteous men do rejoice, there is great glory. But when the wicked rise, a man is hidden. I guess I got to start there tomorrow. Because we're at an hour, and I can tell I'm going to have to do some looking on that. And that's fine. Even though we didn't get a lot of verses. We got a lot of verses from the New Testament. I think it's an important thing. Well, it's just plenty to be mindful of. You know, the Lord, you know, we don't know everything. It's good to, you know, I was, excuse me. Some people were talking about who should be secretary of this and secretary of that, or, you know, what a person should be in the government. And I was talking about how someone I thought should be Secretary of Defense wouldn't be a bad choice. And I'm like, mostly because they had no experience. And that was why I wanted them. I want someone smart who knows they don't know what they're doing. You know, I don't want someone who's smart and thinks they know everything. Because that's not a very good person, in my opinion. That's not a person to choose for a job. You know, I don't want a guy, especially in an institution that's so broken and corrupt right now, as our Department of War. You know, you need something in there that's going to straighten it out. Anyways, remember the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. And I'll be back tomorrow.
Woe unto you,
Scribes and Pharisees,
hypocrites! For you tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought you to have done, and not to leave the other undone. Ye blind guides, which straighten an axe and swallow a camel. Woe unto you, O scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you make clean the outside of the cup and of the platter,